Life for us here in California is slowly coming back to a new normal. Today marks day 13 of being quarantined and day 10 since we are on complete lockdown. Last week was a mix of emotions of fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. And yet there was another set of emotions of confidence in God's protection and His provision and gratitude for health. But then there were disappointments too. I was really looking forward to a couple of conferences to attend. I already paid for them. They're out in May and June, but hearing from the organizers that they were cancelled and that they will refund our tickets and they don't even know if we will have that conference was absolutely disappointing. When we go through a difficult time, we want it to be over and we just can't wait for life to get back to normal, life to get back to how it was previously. But the fact is, normal as we know it has changed. We will never take casually not washing our hands, and every time someone sneezes or coughs, it'll definitely make heads turn. We will always be extra careful when we are traveling or boarding a plane next time. Every mom has experienced what homeschooling is. Now they have a choice of picking from if it's going to work or not. Normal is not going to be like what it used to be. Things have changed and things are going to change further, and it requires us to adapt. This is a season and time for reset for our spiritual life, our physical life, our emotional and financial lives. In our spiritual lives, we see that there are a lot of people pulling out Psalm 91. But let me tell you, that Psalm is not for everyone. I know it's shocking, isn't it? And I was talking to my kids the other day and I told them, Psalm 91 is a great protection psalm. The promises it has are absolutely powerful and great. But there is a condition in that psalm that most of us don't see it. We don't pay attention to it. We just quickly read by it and not give too much thought. It's in the very first verse. It says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." The psalm is only for people who make the Lord their dwelling place. Dwelling means your residence. You live there. That's your address. You're not visiting. You're not an occasional guest. You remain stable there. You abide there. That's your happy place. This psalm, the Psalm 91, is for those people who make the Lord their dwelling place. What I told my kids is, as God's people, we need to reset our spiritual life to make His presence our dwelling place. We are not occasional visitors. We are not supposed to be occasional visitors. We need to learn what it means to abide in His presence. So when plague comes, pestilence comes, or when there are thousands who are falling or 10,000 fall at our right hand, we will have a refuge in the shadow of the Almighty. This psalm gives such confidence for people who make the Lord their dwelling place. It's a time of reset for our own physical lives. It's a time of check on our health, our habits around taking care of this body temple that the Lord has given us. It's a time to reset our emotional lives. It's a check on our emotions. We are all going through the same difficulty, but each of us have a different emotional response based on the hope we have, based on our relationship with the Lord. It's just amazing to see how each person is responding to this crisis. In today's video, I want to talk about two things. One is for your practical life in terms of redeeming your time to be productive, especially during this time of lockdown. When you look back on this season, you should be able to say, remember the time when we were all hunkered down and locked down? That was the time that I actually spent in the presence of God. My relationship was rekindled. That was the time I invested in myself, in my growth. You should be able to say that. I also actually have a printable download in the description below to help you with being productive, redeeming your time, and making use of this new pace of life, because trust me, this season will pass. But how we use it will actually determine our future. The second thing I want to talk to you about is for your mindset. Why? Because having great mindset during this difficult time is extremely important, both for your mental health and the health of your family or anybody else around you. Okay, so let's get to the practical thing first. Being stuck at home for almost 2 weeks now, it has actually been a little bit annoying for me, especially since I'm keeping the house more, I'm cooking a lot, and I'm not able to have as much time for for my own personal study and quiet reflection and the trainings that I'm used to doing on a daily basis, and my days got disorganized. But after the first week, I literally sat down and I had to rewrite a new routine. It's more of a rhythm. I definitely don't want to have a routine that I schedule for every hour. That's going to add more stress to all the craziness that is happening around. But I just put together a rhythm, I should say. It's a mix between a rhythm and a routine. I put together a download. It's a series of questions that will actually help you come up with a plan, which will in turn help you to make the most of your days in this lockdown period. It guides you through identifying what stresses you. Then it guides you to create a flexible routine, identify where or when you procrastinate. It prompts you to have lists to help with tasks. And also there is a great tip on doing unpleasant chores around the house. So the link is in the description if you want to get that, because you see, you have two choices. You can watch every piece of news that comes out about the coronavirus situation and go through every post on WhatsApp or whatever social media you use, or you can use that time to invest in what is most meaningful to you. You know, Ephesians 5:15 and 16 say, "Be very careful then how you live your life, not as unwise but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil." Now, if you thought that the days were evil before the whole coronavirus story started, let me tell you something. The days just got worse. And that is why it is important to be productive during this time. It's important to be spending time in prayer, in developing ourselves, in growing our skills, so we can adapt to the changing economy and the seasons in this world. The second thing I want to talk to you about is mindset. I'm part of John Maxwell team, and we had an online summit for the past 3 days, and John's sessions were given out to everyone, and you can listen to it on his Facebook page. And he talked about turning adversity into advantage. And I'd like to summarize a few of those points because it will give you a great perspective, especially during this time of fear and anxiety. Number one is crisis is quite common. You know, in 1979, mid-July, in a southern city of India, the trains were jam-packed with people by the thousands just scampering away to villages from the city of Hyderabad. Why? Because a Skylab was falling. Skylab was the first American space station launched by NASA. If you Google 1979 Skylab, you will get all the information. It was reported that the Skylab was decaying fast and rapidly descending to the city where my parents lived. So it's like a big crash on the city. So my parents, with my older brother, who was just 21 days old, got into an extremely crowded train. They traveled for 10 hours and eventually made it to the place where my grandparents lived. And the Skylab, after a few days, it fell in a remote place in Australia, and that was the end of it. My point here is there have been difficult times both in previous generations and even in our own generation, and we will get through this. You know, 2 years back, our family got a terrible strain of flu. We all got sick. In fact, we had it 2 times in a matter of 3 months. We were just beaten sick. It was a horrible time, but God brought us through it safely, and we are stronger because of it. Number 2 is keep your traction during distraction. Traction means movement, pulling something forward. You know, we are living in a season of distraction, and the focus to move forward is simply becoming impossible. Uncertainty and anxiety is everywhere, and it seems like fear is spreading faster than the virus. You know, I'm seeing my WhatsApp account blow up with texts and information about the virus and how to take care. And the other day my son came, and it was so cute. He came up to me and he said, "Oh my gosh, how much can one person take about this virus? All day long, all that I hear is about this virus. You know, I got it. I need to wash my hands, stay at home, drink lots of hot fluids. But how much data can one person take?" And I thought that was really cute, because just because your sky is falling doesn't mean my sky is falling. And are we all in the same crisis? Yes. But do we all have the same perspective? Possibly not. You know, I had to cancel a few conferences and I was disappointed. I was really looking forward to it. We had places that we wanted to go. That is not happening. I was in the planning stages of putting together a resource for young women, and that's in limbo. There is so much of distraction. But how can we still have traction in the middle of all this? How can we still keep moving forward? Maybe we need to adjust, but we still need to move forward. We can't control this crisis or the condition around us, but we can control our mindset. Nothing will cause us more anxiety when we try to control things we can't control, and that is why the serenity prayer is so important. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, sometimes we think worrying and being anxious will make things better for us. It won't. The way you get traction is by getting rid of those negative emotions of fear and anxiety, and knowing that Jesus' blood has covered for us, that even though things are not looking good right now, we will get through this. Number 3 is crisis reveals what is inside us. Sometimes we think, oh, they were made in a crisis, or when people go through difficult times, we say the difficulty made them stronger. But difficulties don't make us. Crisis doesn't make us. Our choices make us. Crisis reveals us. We have no control over crisis, but we have control over our choices. Now we are staying at home and there is this scenario of everybody in the house, and it leaves us with some choices. We can exhibit the fruit of the Spirit or be negative and make it difficult for everyone at home. Since what is inside of you is revealed in crisis situation, I would suggest that you take time to fill your cup every day so you can pour from a full cup and not from an empty cup. And what do I mean by that? Take time to spend in prayer personally for strength. Have a personal Bible study time. Practice hearing the voice of the Lord. Practice praying in the Spirit. For me, I need to sit and read and journal and put my thoughts and ideas on a paper. I need to give myself that time in prayer, in writing, in reflecting, or it really becomes hard for me to function throughout the day. So it's important for me to fill my cup first before I start pouring out to my family. And number 4 is crisis is the time when real leaders show up. Take initiatives in places or in groups where you have the most influence or you have a heart for. Show up in those places where you are needed. And although we live in uncertain times, we are not unclear. Unclear and uncertain are two different things. We are clear of the hope that we have. We know that things have been difficult for our ancestors and they made it through those difficult times, and we will also make it. Prioritize what you need to do and be clear on your hope. I really hope this video was helpful to you. I'm praying for you all. This is really a perfect time to use and invest in yourselves. And don't forget the download to help you with your productivity. I'll leave all links in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. I make videos on intentionally living a victorious life through faith. I'll see you again next week.